We must first formulate our thoughts around the notion of why melanin beings, or so-called Negro, black people, colored people, etc., don't know about the Moorish Divine and National Movement and Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It is because of the war waged on our nationality by people of color and people of color of law. Instead of wanting to know truth, most people belong to a society, base their foundation on the faulty information provided to them by the media and other sources of information of that society, who are the controllers or the on and off switch of the emotions of the puppeteer masses. Remember, information has a root word, inform, and that's all they're doing, the media. They're informing you. Now, we have to note that society is used in Canada to define the community because all bylaws, statutes, acts, ordinances, etc. are written by the Law Society of Canada. And every member of the Law Society has a barrister's card and is subject to all statutes by laws, ordinances, and acts, not the citizens with free national names or the people with nationalities. Keep in mind, barrage, baron, barricade, barrier, and barring to understand the role of attorneys, prosecutors, and judges, etc., who all have a barrister's card. This is why Children Aid Society can steal people's children through affidavits in the court. CAS is the Children's Aid Society. That society is outside of the society we think is Canada. So they can do whatever is needed to fulfill their mandate. And their mandate is basically to extract from families the source of wealth. And that's the children. And they have a reputation of doing this in these lands, especially to Moors now labeled Negro, black, and colored. Most of the sheeple's conclusions are based on distorted perceptions, not factual, truthful information that is functional to the viewer's understanding and understanding of what's being reported on. To understand the Moorish Divine and National Movement, the Old Canaanite Temple, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, and Moorish Science Temple of America, you, the listener, must first get out from standing under them and stand over them to see them better, while at the same time understand them from a soul and spirit perspective to get a clear picture of what this divine and national movement is really about. Remember George Orwell, 1984, and the thought police. Very important to remember, those in power don't want Moors to resurrect from the shadow grave and thinking at all. So the idea is to keep us not thinking, because the less we think, the less we act out our science nature of ourselves, right? Meaning that we are the torchbearers of civilization. And until we start acting like who our foremothers and forefathers were, we would never ever be respected. And the reason we're not respected is because we're labeled these misnomers that not only stifle us physically based on our relations with people, but it stifles us spiritually, because the ancestors know that we're not Negroes, black, colored, and we're reneging on our power. We're abandoning our own power to pick up some other power that's based on blind faith, right? So the idea is that Canada, the corporation that many people out there think is a landmass in North America, they have practiced color of law. They have practiced everything in their power to stop Moors from waking up in these lands, right? One of the things that they did is they stopped Brother Malik Zulu Shabazz El from coming here, when some brothers and sisters were trying to bring him here to just speak, at the university, right? This is not something that they're doing because they think he's a terrorist because he has a Muslim name. they're doing this to directly stop the people in these lands, North America specifically, and the corporate region known as Canada, from knowing about their nationality. Because if you research Canadian history, one of the biggest things in Canadian history is the relationship between the European nations and so-called Indians, who did all these treaties but didn't have the authority to do these treaties. So a lot of this land that Canada has was taken fraudulently through contracts that were void at the time of signing them, because the people who signed those contracts didn't have any authority. The Europeans didn't have any authority because they're not from here. And the so-called Indians didn't have any authority because Indians are Moors and Manchurians, or people from the Orient. That's why the majority of people have Chinese eyes, but then they have big noses like us. But then they have straight hair like European. So there's a lot of mixing going on in order to keep this fiction alive. That's not something that they just wanted to do, right? But it's a systematic brainwashing of the people. So during the kidnapping of Brother Hirusutek El, the media put out the energy of fear through false education appearing real. Fear. So they put out fear through fear to distort the perception to the masses of the nation-state corporation called Canada about the true identity of the Moorish Divine and National Movement, its members, its founding prophet, and its importance civically to the burnt copper-toned, highly melanated, subjugated Moors in, but not of, corporate Canada's purported jurisdiction. Now, why do we say Canada is a de facto nation? Canada is a de facto nation because Canada is 140 years old. But the city of Toronto, which is supposedly in Canada, is 175 years old. Right? So if the city is older than the country, then that country sucked in, that country vacuumed the city into itself, right? So the city's been here, and the corporation is a vacuum that sucks up the physical landmass and creates a jurisdiction for itself while using the same name that it sucked up, right? Canada comes from Kayanata, which is an autochthonous word derived from the Egyptian name Kent. The Iroquois Confederation name Canadigua means first descendants of Canaan. Now, Prophet Noble Ali teaches us that that's who we are. We're descendants of Canaan, right? So we have to realize within ourselves what is really being told to us and what should we take up as the truth, right? Moors always have arguments with people about the fact that, why are you calling yourself a Canaanite? We're calling ourselves Canaanites because that's who we are. This land that we live on, called North America, Central America, South America, is part of the Moorish Empire, which is not subordinate to the kingdom over in Morocco. If you go on the SEC website, company 0000230098 is Canada, and it has the maple leaf as its logo. And if you go to the website www.sec.gov/cg1-bin/browse and everything else in here, you'll find that information out too. Canada and its yellow journalism played on the true autochthonous people's mind to activate their emotions with words of deception in an attempt to disconnect the masses from the truth about the severe hidden fraudulent sphere of activity that implicates all heads of this corporate government called Canada and its subordinates into unlawful, tort-filled, color of law coercion called bureaucratic slavery. Slavery, whether or mental or physical, isn't over. It's been bureaucratized. So slavery's been bureaucratized to the point where Moors say that they're indigenous people, but Indians say that they're indigenous people. And then Moors say that the Indian is a fiction. And if the fiction could take claim to something that I have to take claim to when I'm an original, then that thing that we're both claiming is not the original. So when we do our research, we found out about some Moors that used to talk about being autochthonous, right? Now, the science of being autochthonous is that gold is AU. And AU has energy behind it. So in words like autograph, which is different than a signature, authentic, authority, autochthonous, all have that gold energy behind it, that AU energy. Now the science for us is that AU is the 79th element on the periodic table, right? Which equals 16, which equals 7, which lets us know that there is the spirit at work when all this physical stuff is going on. Even though gold has value, it's still a physical thing, and its value comes from the fact that it's an element, right? It's not just something created by man, right? The shadow news reporters have continuously called this movement religious. So when Brother Heru got kidnapped by CAS, we had the opportunity to present ourselves in proper person to the media of Canada. When the media of Canada contacted us and spoke with us and had interviews with us, we were very specific that we were an indigenous nation, that we were not a sect, we were not a group, we're not a church, we're not an organization. We are a national body of people who have been subjugated into the position that we're in. Nobody reported that. Everybody reported their own thing, that we're a sect, that we're this, that we're that. So the war against nationality is no joke. They were told we are divine, an organized body politic of powers and authority given by Allah through Prophet Noble Ali, and are under no jurisdiction of the de facto corporate nation state. Since Canada practices color of law, the objective of news programs were, are, and is to divert attention by means of deception, misinformation, and misrepresentation. Now, yellow journalism is journalism that is used in order to tell fictional stories to the masses. I can't remember the person's name who initiated or who started or founded yellow journalism, but I know that Oprah Winfrey has a very strong relation to that individual. So if you research Oprah Winfrey's history, you would find out about the origin of yellow journalism. Sue Gambadi, a reporter from CP24, asked me on numerous occasions what the MST of A is, and reporters and journalists were told we are not religious zealots or cult members. Our religion is synonymous with spirituality, and we are universal beings manifest in flesh. We recognize all divine prophets and are not some sect of Islam. When she reported on the Moors, She misrepresented us as a sect, and we called her